So I'm already thinking like, this is not the team that we would have wanted to go out there with. And to be honest, I think the first 20 minutes we were okay. We got one really good chance that, you can say that Trafford saved it or Kai did not finish well. But beyond that, I can't really think of any chances that we got until Calafiori came on and acted like the forward that we did not have on the pitch. It was a really disappointing display, not uncommon to what we've seen this season. As much as we're top of the league and we've done well, I've been complaining quite a bit about the level of performance. I don't think we're really playing well. I think we're getting results. And this was a game where there were no set pieces. There was not, a moment where one of our players did anything. Yeah, and we did that thing where when we're under pressure, we can't pass our way out of danger. Our technical level dropped off of a cliff. I already think our technical level has dropped significantly in the last maybe 3 seasons, but it's even worse when we're under pressure. And City just squeezed on us. We couldn't find those passes. It didn't help that we had a goalkeeper that's nowhere near as good on the ball as Raya. And we suffered. Arteta was outcoached. The players were outplayed. And our performance level plus, those things it was such a nothing performance in a final from top to bottom. I think the only player that I thought could hold their head up high and played their very best was Saliba. I think everyone else was definitely below their levels. And it was disappointing because now you have to sit on this loss and allow those narratives to kind of take shape, over 2 weeks. We would have probably wanted to go ahead and just play the next game, but maybe they do need a rest. Maybe, Rice was talking about how shattered he's been. Maybe they need a little bit of time off. I know that the England players will play, but all I have to say is you just cannot throw away the league. The League Cup you can throw away, but you cannot throw away this league. You cannot let this narrative take shape. And, but those performances were going to catch up to us at some stage. We're going to play a team good enough to beat us while playing this way. And it's just not the first time that we've seen that. I mean, do you agree with that? That this was not a performance that we have not seen before from Arsenal this season. I feel like we have seen it before, where we just don't create anything, can't get out of our own half, let the pressure overtake us, concede, and cannot even attempt to try to score after.
Jess, you said it all there, and to be honest, there's nothing more I can echo. It's like, in many ways, that game is just a microcosm of really what we've seen this season. Now, don't get it twisted. We have seen us play amazing in moments, but it's been moments, from August to now. We're kind of winning, losing, drawing in the same way. Of course, we know it's a final. Of course, we know it's against Pep Guardiola. And in many ways, it weren't for the neutral, it weren't a super entertaining game. Both teams were kind of cancelled out, but it's kind of the same things in that we start well. I wouldn't even, it's a weird one because I felt the same way like at Man United at the Emirates, in that we started well. We've got them in their own half. I can't accuse my players of not mentally being with it. Obviously, we haven't got the goal at that point. I would more positive first half, but you could label that as an indifferent kind of first half, we've seen, right? Then you go into halftime. Don't know what's said between the manager and the players, but it all unraveled in the second half. Now, don't get it twisted. When you're playing City or playing any Premier League team, you have to be able to throw punches, but you also have to be able to absorb them. And I think Manchester City did that. I know they've got more winners in their squad, but considering, the season they've had and the week they had coming into it, and, maybe there was an air of complacency from us, but their players stood tall. Their manager worked to treat. I would have loved to have seen Raya start, Jess, but for me, in hindsight, I don't really think it would have made a difference. Of course, he makes mistakes, but he probably wouldn't have made that mistake. Of course, he's better on the ball and all of those kind of things. But the way they pressed and set up traps so that we couldn't play short, when we're going long, we're outnumbered. And when we do win them, there's nobody really around us. In-game proactiveness from the manager, same old, same old. Yes, when I agree with you, when Calafiori came on, he looked amazing. I don't think Hincapié was bad, but Semenyo was giving him a run for his money.
He got that early yellow, and that was
exactly that is something that could have been done at halftime. Calafiori just injects certain things. Obviously, when you look at it, we're kind of fucked, if I'm honest, because as you alluded to at the beginning of when you mentioned it, like Eze's not there. Odegaard, even though he ain't been amazing this season, isn't there. You're reliant on Kai Havertz and Benjamin White, who aren't really the fittest of players. Then you sprinkle in the fact that our players, the manager's just not learning, in my opinion, in that, if we keep repeating the same things are going to happen. The players as well, as much as I think it's about tactics, you're playing in a final. I saw nobody really up for it. Nobody really putting the team on their back. And that's why I think it's just like what you said, that there, yeah, it's not just one singular reason. It's many different ingredients. Like me and you have been very passionate about a midfielder or two, in addition to Rice and Zubamendi. I think you could have had that Santi Cazorla regen. Raya could have been out there, but the way they're packing out the midfield, the way they're standing off Raya and just getting numbers, Arteta had no answers for it. Now, of course, long term, I hope he learns from it. I don't really subscribe to the rhetoric of we've got to use this as fuel and things, which I mean, you do. You have got to a final, which we haven't done in 6 years, but you've been feeling this kind of way. And I make you right. I don't think our defenders were dead. But if there's anyone, it's Saliba. I do think Rice and Zubi were crippled, but it is what it is.
Yeah,
and I don't know about you, Jess, yeah, but obviously football's decided at both ends, isn't it? Like, at some point, I can't get vexed at Kepa doing Kepa things, definitely at Wembley. I can't get vexed at Kai Havertz doing Kai Havertz things where, clear-cut chance on the knife edge. Of course, Saka's been shit this season and he arguably missed an opportunity. But you could count on one hand just how many chances we had. You mentioned Kai, I mentioned Saka. Calafiori had a shot that whistled wide. I'm sure he hit the bar. We can't complain. We can be frustrated and disappointed, but when it's all being said and done, this is why we didn't win the game, innit?
There's something about the way that Arsenal approach
and clearly stage fright
and perform in games where they cannot draw. I think having that safety net and always
they thought there's a second leg.
That mentality of if you can't win, don't lose is something that hurts us. I think they think that as long as the game is close and they haven't conceded, because that's even the way that Arteta manages games at times. I think he managed the City game pretty much like that. Well, as long as they don't score, we're okay. We can just absorb all of this pressure. I don't think if we had not conceded, I think he would have just left that group out there. I think the only reason why he started to panic was because he could see that, oh shit, they scored. Yeah, that's what happens
when bringing on Nelly in the 82nd minute. We're accustomed to them late subs when you're kind of giving up.
But if you've looked at the way that this team has played in games that it requires you to win them. You have to forget about everything else and just play for that moment. This team, either physically and emotionally, or maybe both, cannot lock into a situation where it's like, oh shit, this is do or die. We have to win today.
Get the job done.
Yeah. So the mentality that you guys have in the league is not the mentality that you can have in cups. And even there's games in the league that we've needed to win and we rarely do. So that's a mentality thing. I don't know what it is, but going into a final and playing like there was another leg or you could draw 0-0 was wild to me. Because more like you can get ran over and lose your way and concede 2 goals quickly.
That's how you die on your sword, man.
Yeah, but when you have 20 minutes to go and that time just runs out, and you don't even try to start playing until the 90th minute, I can't accept that. Like, I can't accept that this team cannot understand that there's nothing else to play for today, and you need to score right now, and you need to start acting like you want to score right now. It goes from the manager to the players. It's that if you can't win, don't lose, but if you lose, you don't win you don't win the trophy. So what's going on? Like, kind of reminded me of going away to Bayern in the quarterfinals that one year where we went to the Allianz Arena and they played like there was another leg. They can't lock into that do or die mentality. And we haven't seen it since the 22-23 season. We haven't seen it.
Even then, when it's crunch time, went left.
Yeah, they can't win the game when they need to. And that's scary because every game from here on out is do or die. They will have seen the weaknesses now. Everybody watched that game. Everybody's going to want to
4-1 gave Arteta. It's going to give Arteta nightmares. There's so much, man. I think, everything me and you have been crying for Mikel Arteta to do. I think I saw it against PSG last season, and I think I saw it against City. Now, I'm not going to be a hypocrite. Clearly, City have been in issues. I think when you see the celebrations, that it's not that they didn't believe they could win. It's just that they didn't think they would that like that was going to kind of happen. You know, they had Bernardo Silva here, there, and everywhere. They had their front four. You had O'Reilly stepping into midfield. You had at times Nunes being a traditional fullback and becoming a centre half, as we've alluded to. You know, they were more than happy. Which, granted, we've never seen it like that this season, but we have seen teams say, you know what, Saliba, Gabriel, Raya, all you lot in defense, because football's a simple game. You got to go from one end to the other. You lot have the ball. We've marked him. We've taken Rice and Zubamendi out the game, and you actually saw Rice kind of be an input when we're trying to play out from the back, try and be like another left back and allow Hincapié to be forward. We took the midfield out the game. So what did you see in it? You saw Gyökeres, Saka, Kai Havertz, everybody dropping into our own half. Pep Guardiola showed his experience. Where I look at Mikel Arteta is, we keep ending up in these scenarios in that when if people put the banter and all that kind of stuff to the side, the possession stats were kind of even. It was a low-key affair. I think O'Reilly had the only shots on target from City. But that's where I get annoyed with Arteta, because we're never on the right side of that. It reminds me of PSG where, yeah, you could leave with some credibility. You never got embarrassed. You can do the ideal scenario situation. And what I mean by that, Jess, is people say if the Kepa mistake doesn't happen, maybe the trajectory of the game isn't changed, or maybe if Kai scores, it's a different kind of game. And these things are valid, but we can only deal with what actually happened. And obviously, you can lose a final. And for my players, you need to do a bit more. But for the manager as well, like you're at a final. It's your first final, actually, where there's fans. It's the first one after 6 years. It's very disappointing. Now, I'm not going to sit here and act like the League Cup is the be-all and end-all, but I'm also not going to act like I'm not disappointed to win it because of the psychological factors. Because actually, for some fans, yeah, like last season, they were saying, we're cool with just any bit of silverware. You would have had that. That might have given you a bit of trajectory. I do want to ask you, before we talk about what this could mean for the title race and whatnot, like, what did you make of Kepa starting in goal? Because it's a weird one for me, because I would have started Raya. Raya's made mistakes, of course. And I think it's a weird one for me because Raya's made mistakes. I don't think he makes that mistake, which at the time were under the cosh. I do think our players' heads dropped, which isn't just on the keeper. I just feel it's our most important game. You've got to play your best keeper. But it's a weird one in that I don't think, obviously, moments decide the games, but I don't think Kepa was terrible. He made the mistake. That's the be and end all. Probably could have done better for the second. I would have went there with Raya. I didn't subscribe to this rhetoric of, and I understand the rhetoric with why he should start, but I didn't subscribe to the whole we owe Kepa stuff and this, that, and the other. The collectives comes first. But what did you make over Raya versus Kepa? What camp was you in before the game? And do you think it would have made a difference, or yeah?
I didn't think he should have started against Chelsea. I was vocal about that then.
Yeah, I wanted Raya as well.
Yeah, I was like, why is he starting him? I don't get it. This is a game that matters. It's his ex-team. And I thought he made the semifinal harder than it needed to be, because when we went away to Stamford Bridge, he could not collect the ball, and he's terrible at claiming crosses, which ended up being the issue against City. He couldn't claim like a simple ball. He hits it with his fingertips. He's just not that guy, So we ended up going back to the Emirates and we won, but that tie should have been over. Him being involved means that the games are even tighter than they would have been anyway. And so I never thought this whole, like, we need to, honorable, respect, care, and hugs and kisses and shit. I've never been on that, because
I'm for little kids.
Yeah, because what would have been nicer for Kepa would have been to play and lose, or play and not play and win it. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't get it. I think that he earned it, because I'm like, yeah, well, at the first, step, he dropped Ethan, because Ethan was here and
not
he
to
played
mention
those earlier rounds.
Miles Lewis Skelly, if they're going to do all that being fair to everyone's stuff.
Yeah, but Kepa gets no, I'm not trying to hear all that. He shouldn't have played. We may have still not won, but I personally feel like Raya at least makes it easier for us to play out of the back, and also claims those simple kind of crosses, and maybe we get to penalties.
Raya's mistake would have been probably, playing an underhit pass like the North London Derby a couple of years ago. I don't think he makes that happen. Yeah. In which I have to get at the manager, because what do we sit here and say? Well, some people said, Jess, you know what? When everyone's fit, our second choice team could challenge for top 4. There's no favorites. Everybody's of an equal footing. I don't think, out of all the decisions that I think might keep Mikel Arteta up at night after that final. I don't think the Kepa one will be one. He made his bed, he's got to lie in it. I don't like with you, just I'm not subscribing to all of this. Like we owe him anything, and I'm not even trying to make this just about Kepa, but we owe him anything. You know, he's gonna feel upset. Mikel Arteta's promised him this and that. Bearing in mind, we don't know that. For me, it just doesn't make sense, man. What did you make of
Yeah.
the left hand side as well, man?
I mean, our left-hand side has not been good for years. So I'm not going to sit here and
Tell me
pretend
about it.
like I think that another combination would have been so amazing. I think right now we're at the point where the only thing, if we can get anything going off of the left-hand side, it will be because Calafiori is there. And that's not even to shade Hincapié. I think Hincapié has been great. But Arteta has let the left-hand side basically die since Zinchenko and Xhaka. It hasn't worked out. And then now that Saka is doing what he's doing and looking the way that he's looking, you have, you know, a dead left-hand side and a right-hand side that can't do anything either. Like
And a
I can't even
midfield that's knackered.
yeah, I can't
And
really
anyone that
focus
plays
on
in
the left.
Odegaard's role isn't fit.
Yeah, it's like you're just hoping
Madness.
that whoever starts at left wing can look like a decent player, and that's not to shade either one of Martinelli or Trossard, but we should have addressed
Really?
that position. You know, Nani is not good over there, so them trying to lie to us and say that Nani was coming in to play that position in the right, that's not it. We're still doing Trossard and Martinelli. You know, it is what it is. Not having a left-footed player on that side in midfield probably doesn't help either, but you know, that's Rice's position.
It's
You
only
know,
like you have one in your squad, and you do have, you've got a
yeah,
31, 32-year-old guy that can deputize in some sort of way for Zubimendi, or you have Miles Lewis Skelly that could be utilized when you see him with Nico O'Reilly. But that's not even my problem, just like I think them lot could do that. If Arteta disagrees, you have to show me another solution, and you're just doing the Rice and Zubimendi thing. So that tells me two things. You either haven't, we either don't trust certain men in our squad, either because of their ability or their willingness for your tactics, or you just don't believe in their qualities. So if that is the case, you've got to make it happen. And me and you have done a lot of talking, and I feel
yeah.
a lot of Arsenal fans, we do a lot of speaking. We know our attack needs a bit of life and better players and all of that, even though there's no guarantee that unless something changes in the final third from a coaching aspect, you're ever going to see our attackers play amazing. We know about our defense, but it's the midfield battle week in, week
Mm.
out. And if it's not Rice or Zubi, there's no one else.
You know what I'll say about that too? Like, because anytime that
Sorry.
our midfield plays the way that it's playing, obviously the conversation about Miles Lewis Kelly is going to come up. And, you know, I do think that Miles has looked pretty off it this season. In particular, in
100%.
preseason, I thought, yeah, no, like we're going to have to start with somebody else. And Calafiori, for all intents and purposes, was one of our best players
And the
at
way
the
we're
first
playing on
half
the
of the
left is completely
season.
different now. So it kind of renders him redundant.
Exactly.
But
But
off the bench, really, especially when he's
for
got some courage in the final.
yeah, that's, you know, for to allow that level of talent to just go unused for this entire season is why I think some people will never really warm to Mikel, because
You just got to get over
I
the line,
can't
man.
imagine any other top manager just letting a player like Miles Lewis Skelly be a non-factor in this team. And when you're playing in a position where, you know, the other team feels like they know that your center midfielders are not can't receive the ball under pressure, you literally have a player that's his bread and butter. I think with Miles, the one thing that I look at him and I'm like, this is what you are. Like, you are a release valve. You're somebody that under pressure, we can give you the ball and you can come out victorious. And Man City played with mostly technical midfielders. They came to us with Shirky and Bernardo Silva. Neither one of those, in my opinion, are going to be able to handle somebody like Miles. If you were to pass the ball into him and one of them were on him, he would have got past them. You know, but Arteta,
You could shift Rice over there. You could put Zubi further forward, which again, it's not going to be replicated in the Odegaard or Eze role. But owing to their fitness struggles, or maybe just
yeah,
trying something different, it throws a spanner
he
in the
had
works. This
to,
is what I always
yeah,
say to you, just that
he had to
Mikel
do
Arteta's
that.
biggest strength and weakness is he overthinks too much.
Yeah,
And it's gifts and curses.
but his thing is safety over everything. And if they're not going to give us the lanes to pass into, he's just not going, he's going to just say, well, they're blocked, so let's just go long. You know, he's not going to do the thing that's going to hurt them the most, which would have been to hurt their press by being able to bypass it by passing it to somebody that can
And
dribble
the person
past
that doesn't
them.
want to fight gets hurt the most. It's like in football,
Yeah.
you pull out of a 50-50, you get hurt more.
Yeah. So he
And we
just
keep like, sorry to cut you, Jess, but it's
no,
like
go
what you
ahead.
said at the start. At the start, it's like we keep seeing the same things. And I want people to bear that in mind that's listening. But go on, Jess.
Yeah, it's just but he's let Miles's like confidence and stature in the team dip so much that he's almost I think he's almost like, well, I can't play him now because look at him now. But it's like, but you should have solved this or at least attempted to solve it way before we got to this because you've basically made a player that is so useful and was one of our best players last season, not by just being the best of the worst, but actually being like a top player.
A
You've
bona
rendered
fide
him
first team
useless
option.
to us. Yeah, you've rendered him useless to us. You've made two major mistakes, in my opinion, which was letting Ethan go because now everybody in that position is injured and you could
We'll get
use
on to
somebody
that.
like him. And now you also don't have Miles Lewis Skelly, so what are you going to do now? But he wouldn't play them anyway because in his mind, it's too big of a risk to play players that like them because they take risks, they get on the ball. And I'm not surprised that in a moment in a final where we needed somebody that can try to open up the game and has bravery, instead of going with Dauman, he went for Jesus. And that's
He's
literally
another
everything.
one that we ain't seen since he stunk up the place in like the FA Cup.
Yeah. Love. I think Arteta, he does a lot of good things, but one thing that he is always for me that's always going to be in the back of my mind is he just does not like players that take risks. And that's why we lose most finals, semifinals,
And
and
not taking a
quarterfinals.
risk is a risk. And this is what's annoying, Jess, in that, like you said, I like a lot of what you do, Arteta. What you've done's got us to this point. I want to pick my words wisely, but you've made us competitive again. You've made us competitive. You've done a lot of good coaching. You've shown that we can compete against some of the best in Europe and not get embarrassed. And we are a good outfit in a difficult unit, and we do have